Welcome. I'm Sean,
I'm Brad.
and this is my first watch.
This is my rewatch. The Wire, Season 2, Episode 2, Collateral Damage. We're in it. We're in the docks now, man.
Yeah, it's picking up. It's getting interesting.
You know, I felt like this episode had a total tonal shift by the end, and I don't know if I've ever recognized that before, so I'm really excited to go through everything with you.
Okay.
So we start off with Beatty Russell Beatrice. She's the Port Authority cop, and we're right where we kind of left her last episode, where she found these girls in the canister, and she's now, with all these bodies kind of laid out, we are starting to find a little bit of information about these bodies, these girls. We confirm there's 13 of them. Nobody there really knows what to do. Nobody really wants the responsibility of these girls. We get to meet the coroner, Frazier. Is that his name? Black guy, right? Frazier?
Me, but yeah, Frazier with the weird hair. Dude with weird hair.
Yeah, he looks like a coroner, right?
Yeah, he does.
So we get to learn a little bit about these girls from him, as far as, you know, they look like they're not American, and there's like Russian paperwork on the boat. But it's very clear that nobody really wants to touch this thing, and it kind of looks like Beatty is going to be responsible for this entire case.
And also feels like she's like way out of her depth with something like this.
Yeah, she doesn't really. They're asking like questions about you know, what to do, and one of the cops says, you know, we'll eat it, as far as taking responsibility, and one of the other guys even says, all you got here is a lot of paperwork. So, yeah, it almost feels like they're getting stuck with it.
Yeah, sure.
We go to, and Frazier, that's what they say at the end. Once everyone walks out, Frazier says, and then there was one, and that's Beatty.
Yeah.
So we go to our credits. We come back to our quote. They can chew you up, but they got to spit you out, which is from McNulty. We'll get to that in a little bit. Frank and Nick, we're starting off with our new guys here. Frank and Nick go to the Greek to get answers on the dead girls. I feel like this entire scene here, Nick is trying to play peacemaker. Let's not take things too far. Let's not take it to another level. And Frank is demanding answers from Spiros. So someone was supposed to get off of the boat where the canister came from and give the okay that there was no problem with customs, I guess. So there's no like setup. They assume there's no problems. And that's what Sergei was waiting for that entire time that Frank was staring at him last episode. Sergei didn't get it. That's why I didn't pick up the can.
And I was very curious why. So
it's nice that they explain that. Nick is still trying to smooth things over. Like, you know, they didn't know. They're claiming they didn't know that there were dead girls. But this is the point where we learned that Frank doesn't even know exactly what it is that they have going on. They have this relationship where Frank is taking these illegal canisters, but we don't know what's in the cans, and neither does Frank. It finds out. And Spiros is very direct. Like, you don't want to know. He kind of fucks with them. We think he's fucking with them, but we don't really know. And he says, you know, guns and girls and BMWs and bombs. Yeah, and you really start to wonder, like, how deep in could this be going?
I think what's interesting about Frank, his character, you know, I'm really tuned into his character. And that's interesting because he seems to have a moral compass, right? He seems to be very appalled by the fact that there were dead girls in his cans, right? And at the same time, he's willingly participating in this legal activity. But, you know, he doesn't come off to me as someone greedy. Like, he's not doing it for any monetary gain per se. It seems as though he's keeping his union whole and his group of, like, workers whole, you know, his blue-collar guys. So it's just an interesting, different kind of character.
Yeah. I think at this point, too, there's something was specific that was said, and I don't know if you caught it, but Frank says to Spiros, tell the Greek next time there's something breathing in the can, I want to know it.
Yeah, I heard that for sure.
So that confirms then what I was kind of misleading about, and that Spiros is the Greek. Spiros is not the Greek.
And then he's the guy who last week said, I'm one of them at least, right? That's the same guy?
He said, I'm Greek.
Oh, okay.
He said, I'm Greek at least.
Mm-hmm.
Brianna explaining to Avon the Roberto situation and the fact that, again, they question, well, Roberto has problems with the DEA. He's now in legal trouble. They're wondering how Avon got 7 years. They don't trust them. And so Avon's going to be out with those guys for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and this looks like he sets up Stringer to get a new connect in Atlanta.
Avon's going to send Stringer to Atlanta for some other guy that he knows. But the other thing that Brianna wants to kind of get squared away is the relationship with D'Angelo, in asking about, has Avon seen him? And again, we get to hear that phrase, we're keeping him close. And that's how Avon describes what's going on with D'Angelo. But D'Angelo is in another unit. He can't exactly, it's hard to get to him. And Brandon says, remember, you made promises. And they also bring up the fact that Donette, his girlfriend and son, have not been to visit D'Angelo. And all this is a part of keeping D'Angelo happy, at peace, because he's got to do a lot of years for the family.
Yeah, Stringer and D'Angelo's mom, Brianna, you said her name is, right? Yeah. They both use the phrase, he's holding a lot of weight for us. He's carrying a lot of weight for us. So, yeah.
And Avon just makes sure that Brianna knows, I'm not going to let anything happen to him in jail here. Bunk and McNulty are eating crabs in Homicide. And Bunk asks McNulty how long it took him to figure out that that the Tide went into the Tide pushed that girl into the county, and just marveling at the fact that McNulty, I think he said 45 minutes or something like that. I can't remember.
He said 4 hours. I believe.
4 hours. That's what it was. It was something like wild. Yeah, it was 4 hours. And Bunk then brings it to reality in the fact that now this is a murder on Cole. It's a stone cold whodunit. And now it's on Cole, and McNulty just did that to him. And that's when McNulty calls it collateral damage. He calls Cole collateral damage.
Ah, so that's where the title's from. I was trying to remember, when was that used? Got it. Okay.
And this was all really just for the joy of fucking over Rawls.
And that's perfect that they titled this episode, because as we'll see later on, the collateral damages hits more than that particular cop, Cole.
Mm-hmm. Once we learn the nature of the crime.
Yeah.
He's also telling McNulty, Bunk is also telling McNulty that we need Omar, Jimmy. And it's time you show, I love this phrase, it's time you show the Bunk some love. And McNulty just keeps brushing him off, says, you want some love, come sit on my lap.
Mm-hmm.
And this is...
I know you know the answer, but, why do we think he's so apprehensive to give up Omar?
I think really, if I'm taking on face value, I think he just doesn't want to bring back Omar. I think he just doesn't want to.
I'll take it a step further, and I think he doesn't want to because he knows it screws over Rawls and his clearance rate. That's just at least how I'm interpreting it. Like,
okay, I'll take it.
Try to give it back to Rawls. So.
I'll take it. This is also the point where McNulty sees the story about the dead girls because they're eating the crabs on newspapers.
Yeah.
And there's a story about the 13 girls in the can.
Yeah.
So we go to the docks, and Horseface is telling some story about stealing vodka from a can, and that's when Frank gets word about the cops on the port, and they're all given tickets. And Frank goes out, and it's Carver. Sergeant Carver, with his stripes, doing good old police work. Valchek's petty business, I guess, of giving tickets to all the cops parked by the ports just to fuck with them.
So this is the first time we've seen Carver since he got his stripes last season, and you know what, man? He doesn't look triumphant in his new role. He doesn't look very happy, very satisfied. He looks, kind of like he's doing grunt work.
Yeah, and in comparison to Herc was very excited about where he was at in episode 1 as far as kicking in the door and forfeitures and all this stuff when he was talking to Kima. And here in our first look at Carver, you're right, very boring, and he's the one that's wearing the stripes.
Yeah. Herc seems more, satisfied with the work tasks at least.
Carver gives up Valchek right away, and he drops the famous line, chain of command. He's got a boss. He's just doing what he's told.
Yeah. Did you think it was weird he was so friendly with those guys? Or is it like, hey, man, like, I get it. I'm one of you guys. I'm a blue-collar dude. Like,
yeah, I think he just doesn't want any beef. I think he doesn't want any drama about it. I don't think he cares. And so he's just trying to let them know, hey, I got a boss. And I'll bet Valchek wants them to know that it's him.
Oh, definitely they want him to know it's him. And you know what I'll say? If it was Herc in that position, I could see him having a little fun giving it to these guys instead of being so apologetic about it. So
we get to a pretty interesting little scene here with Wee-Bey in jail in his prison cell, and we meet this prison guard, CO, I think Tillman is his name, and he is doing a check on Wee-Bey's room, searching through everything, tearing all the posters off the wall, girls, calendars, and then dumps out Wee-Bey's fish tank. So we see his love for fish is still continuing on. Nice little character trait that they're keeping going on the show here. But they're plastic fish, and just dumps the water all out, gets his sheets all wet, and tells them to just clean this mess up. So this is going to be a problem for Wee-Bey.
I don't know if you noticed how excited I was to see Wee-Bey again when he came up on the screen, but I definitely popped huge. But clearly there's a story building here, which we'll learn more about later, but this guard doesn't like him, and he's picking on him. So
Valchek comes to meet Frank at the union office. This is, I guess, supposed to be the meeting that the priest told Frank to have, but this doesn't go probably the way that the priest would have suggested. And it almost feels like Stan Valchek, is assuming that something's been explained to Frank, like you're going to give up the window. And that's how he comes in with this attitude, almost like he's owed a favor. And Frank lets him know right away. He says, like, the decent thing to do would have been to come in here with some respect into our home and ask for what you want. And he basically runs Stan down. And we learn that these guys have known each other. Their families have known each other for years and years and years, going back to when Stan Valchek was a younger man. And Frank Sobotka telling him that I've known my entire life through history that you've just been a lonely, bitter prick.
Yeah, he really reads them, as it's called. And then it's funny that Valchek, he was the one cutting the promo last week on Presbeluski and telling him, what he's going to make out of him and kind of giving him the dad talk. And here we really see Frank rip him apart. And Valchek doesn't shy away from the fact that it affects him, I guess. He doesn't hide it very well. You can tell that everything Frank said is probably true.
He had to be shocked, right? Mm-hmm. Probably no one's dressed him down like that. And
no, he's got rank. He's got title. He's got suction. No one talks to him.
He shows how hurt he is. He spits on his way out. He spits on the union floor on his way out, which is the ultimate disrespect.
Yeah.
McNulty is now headed over to the port to stick his nose in the business. I don't know exactly.
Like he belongs there, just kind of starts going through evidence, active crime scene. Who cares, I
don't know exactly what he was doing there because his partner's there and they're joking about the whole knot and all that. But he has like an hour to hang out. So I don't know if he asked if we could go hang out here at the port so I can check this thing out if they had a reason to go there. But he finds his way there, meets Beatrice, and basically starts figuring out that this girl's in way over her head.
Yeah, and then just for some context, remember that McNulty found a girl just the other day, and now there's this canister full of dead girls. So, McNulty's back in homicides, quote unquote, even though he's not in homicide. So,
and they match up the numbers with the girl that he had. When she asked why he even cares, he says he felt like this was an un-American girl, and the canister has 14 beds, but again, only 13 bodies. So they're able to deductive reasoning that this is the missing girl from the bed, from the canister. And they start checking out other stuff. They learn about the false back of the canister where Beatty found the bodies in the first place. They take a look at the tailpipe where right away McNulty catches on that it looks like someone's banged the tailpipe. Their original thought was that these cans get stacked or they hit equipment and they get bent in, which would mean just like one or two times they would get pressed in. But McNulty says it looks like repeatedly it's been hit. They look at the inside of the wall and they said that the coroner said that the girls were crawling at the wall for air. So these girls were murdered in this can.
So the air pipe situation, kind of break that down for me, because that part I did get confused about a little. So when we call it an air pipe, that was their one source of oxygen. Is that what that was? And then it was covered up. So Correct. That's why they were scratching at the walls and clawing?
Correct.
Okay. And then they also discussed the handler, I forget what the exact name for that person is, who's kind of in charge of making sure stuff like that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they couldn't find anybody. So this is when they start, at least Freamon and Bunk, as we'll get into it, as they start to get into the case, they'll start to investigate the boat itself.
Okay.
Valchek meets with this building contractor, and they're talking. They're old friends, and Valchek is wondering how the docs got the money for this window, this immaculate window at the church. And the contractor says that when he's down in Annapolis, what he sees is that they have a lobbyist, and that stuff is very expensive, and that sets off an alarm in Valchek's head that there's something going on. And it's almost like the contractor lets Valchek think it was his own idea, even though the contractor basically said it. You know, I don't know, Stan, you're the police.
Yeah, he's very hands-off. Like, I don't know, man.
We also get a quick little throwaway line. It seems that Burrell is up for commissioner.
Yeah, there's almost two. There's that throwaway line, and then we also, I don't remember if the scene's next, but Daniels, we see later, who also, they mentioned Burrell may be the next commissioner.
Mm-hmm. McNulty shows the coroner the air pipe with Beatty and how it's been hit a bunch of times, and the coroner says, "Congratulations, you got murders." And so that's now 13 murders for the can. Well, 14 when you add in that other girl.
Yeah.
Valchek goes to Burrell now off of this news. He almost acted like he knew, but now it seems like he's acting off of this right away. Maybe it sparked something in his head, but he's basically trying to offer a favor to Burrell for support from the first district, which I guess is his representation. And in return, it's almost like right away, it's like, "Oh, that's very nice of you, Stan. What can I do for you?" And in return, this is where things start moving. Stan Valchek with like a detail to investigate Frank Sobotka and the ports.
So Burrell is very, like you said, he's very knows the game, and he knows, okay, favor for a favor. What does this guy want? And it's all, again, this is such beautiful writing because we see this as a part of the thread that, you know, Burrell is going to be the commissioner, right? And then this whole favor was about getting him on the poster or whatever it was, getting him placement, you know? So it's just interesting to see they're setting up stuff for this season, probably later seasons for all I know, that I'm really interested in. So the fact that Burrell is going to be commissioner and the fact that he assigned this detail, he gave Rawls the responsibility to put it together.
6 men, 6 weeks. Rawls picks the guys. So Daniels and Marla are talking about Daniels' future, his career, and they basically bring up this whole point that with Burrell, what we just learned a few scenes ago, Burrell is going to be commissioner. That's the word around. There's no opportunity for Daniels to crawl out of the actual basement where he is now. And Marla tells him, you got to make a decision here for you. You got to do something to be happy. And he does have options.
Yeah, Marla, you know, reminds him of his law degree and how, you know, the work he has done in law enforcement is going to make him kind of like a superstar at any of these firms. So she's really encouraging him to leave law enforcement and put it in his papers. And we see the scene starts off really interestingly because, you know, they're in mid-conversation or post-conversation, and we see he's upset and he's really contemplating whatever it is they were talking about. And by the payoff of the scene, we see that he makes the decision to put in his papers and leave the force, partially due to the fact, like you said, Burrell is going to be commissioner and he has no chance to advance with that.
And I have to assume that, like you said, part of a longer conversation, because this went over way easier than the Cheryl Kima argument.
Yeah, sure.
Which has been a season long now, at least.
And she's still fighting. So yeah, you could tell that this was kind of like the awkward silence part of the conversation. So
very much. Ziggy goes to the little local union bar and has a little breakfast with the boys, an egg in a beer and a shot. And it's 8 a.m. And Ziggy also wants to talk to Nick, his cousin, about some drugs that he has an opportunity to sell.
Did you think of Herc right away when he was talking about this, or is it just me?
Yeah, well, I thought of him, but I also thought of the guy that Ziggy eventually meets. I feel like Ziggy probably isn't that guy yet. But yeah, it seemed pretty shitty plan. Basically, Ziggy can already get drugs, but if he can get his cousin Nick to give him more money, they can get more drugs and make more money. And Nick seems like pretty disgusted with this idea. He's like, get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah, he wants no parts of this plan.
On the way out of the bar, it is 8 a.m. and Carver is back at it. by order of Stan Valchek, Major Valchek, Carver is running a DUI stop down the street from the Union bar where everyone knows the Union guys are getting drunk before work. And one of the guys like just falls out of the truck almost like, who drinks at 8 a.m.?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. But it also shows, Valchek is continuing his pursuit to mess with his guys, Sobotka's guys.
Rawls is refusing to take the murders from, I'm assuming it's another colonel. I'm assuming it's an equal. It seems like the same battle that we heard about from the last episode where Rawls pushed it over onto Baltimore County. And now they're saying, no, it's not going to be on us. It's going to be on you. When Rawls comes out of the office, he pretty much feels like he's wrapped this thing up. He's pushed it on this guy and told him, like, you're going to take this thing. And he's just basically being an asshole of, I don't care what you said.
Yeah, what do you think of the little scene with all the detectives underneath Rawls kind of just like, it's like you're waiting on your parents to come out. I don't know. It was very like they were very much a team. And I feel like McNulty has never been a team player the way they all feel like a team. They all are on the same page. Like, we don't want this murder, these 13 murders.
And they were all really looking up to Rawls in that moment. He was very much, a team, a family. He was like the Papa Bear of that police force, and they're all looking to him. And he knows this. He is playing this thing out until the very last minute. He slowly goes to the office and gets some coffee and then snakes back through and Bunk, and we finally get to see Freeman, and everyone is just looking and seeing. He throws up the fist, and everyone kind of gives out a little bit of a...
I love that scene because, look, man, I don't know, something about me, I love seeing the characters who are assholes not be assholes. So when Prez does good shit, I like it. And again, Rawls being a leader and a real captain to his team, man, that's good to see. So
Rawls' essential argument also is that this would fuck up his murder rate, which is at 50% right now. And so he is not taking these murders and screwing up his clearance, and which again, the numbers game back into effect.
He put it in clear terms with that other major or whatever he was. He's like, I'm not an idiot. My clearance rate's at 50. I fought for that. You know how hard that is. Me taking on these murders with me at 38%. So it's hard to argue with that, right?
Knowing what we know about how things work there, it is. We go to the jail, and Wee-Bey is catching up with Avon on what's been going on with him and this guard. And it's funny to see how the power has shifted. Wee-Bey's whining. He's really kind of whining to Avon about this guard. I get it, but it's just interesting that he now has no power in the situation to handle this.
So when you say power shifted, this is not like he's not his muscle or him being a shooter doesn't really give him any value in prison.
And he's being bullied by this guard, and there's nothing he can do except go to Avon and ask him to make him stop.
Yeah, it is interesting. I never thought of it as him not having the power he has before. So now I'm going to pay attention to that.
And really, when you look at it, I get it that Wee-Bey is a killer and all that. And I'm probably romanticizing his character more because he's a TV character and I like the show and I like his character. But it really is, it feels like they're stripping Wee-Bey down in that sense. Like the way you hear, this is a much more minor way, but there seemed to be no reason for what was going on. This just seems to be, this is a cop with a vendetta. Wee-Bey killed this guy's like cousin or brother or something like that. And this guy can't let it go. And I think it's a cousin and can't let it go.
And I think the thing about it that's funny is he might not even killed the person. I think he just took the rap for the murder. He might have actually killed them. It was really ambiguous. They were like, so.
They don't even remember it. Yeah, Wee-Bey remembers it, but Avon doesn't even know. And he makes reference later just like, who knows with he tells him, who knows with your record and your numbers, murder is no thing to Wee-Bey. And unfortunately, this guy is a cross path in that world for Wee-Bey, and it's coming back to bite him.
Right.
So Avon says that he's gonna check it out, take care of it for him. But Wee-Bey also mentions that this guy, the hypocrisy, because a lot of the different COs do different stuff. Some of them are catering to Avon, but they talk holier than thou, and mentions this specific CO sells on the side.
That's right. They did say that.
Frazier, the coroner, and Beatty and McNulty and some other guy, they're doing some math to figure out exactly when these girls died because they are determined to stick it to Rawls. And Beatty asks, like, you're doing this just to fuck your old boss? Like, she almost seems like she wants out. And McNulty says, well, I mean, it's either that or they're yours. So,
yeah, I love that because McNulty doesn't even hide his intentions. So,
but they're going to do it. They're going to succeed here. Avon tries to talk to the CO just during, like, I guess, general pop time, or I don't know what the terminology would be, but the CO's not having it, and he even confirms, like, oh, Barksdale, right? And says, nah, I'm out of here, and goes up the stairs. And I think it's pretty clear they're going to have to go about this another way. Yeah,
the way Avon responded was very. He said, "Pardon me," like almost, "Who are you talking to?" The way he was so disrespectful. Avon's not used to being talked like that. Going back to the power dynamics, but Avon clearly does have power and influence even in prison, so it's not the same.
McNulty faxes the time of death out to all the different, I guess, to the Baltimore County and to the people who are all making this decision. It looks like maybe all different colonels. I don't know. They're all going to basically, from the different counties, they're going to make Rawls take these murders.
And McNulty just seems so pleased with himself as he's faxing it. You know, he's just so satisfied. I don't know, man. He is. Like Jay said last week, like Landsman said last week, man, he never learned self-preservation. He is just not a self-preservation guy.
He can't help himself.
No.
And they give him up. They say, your man in the Marine unit is the guy that confirmed this for us. And Rawls says, I happen to know my man in the Marine unit. He says, that guy is an asshole. So similar to Daniels accidentally giving McNulty up, these guys have now given McNulty up and back on Rawls' radar.
I don't even think Rawls, they didn't have to give McNulty up. I'm sure Rawls knew who was doing this even before they said anything, right?
You're right. Who else?
Yeah.
We get to see the murder board now in the homicide unit, and this is where we see all the red names. Cases go from red to black by way of green. We get to see them all in red, and just one down the line, 14 Jane Does. And homicide department is horrified, not at the murders themselves, but at the numbers.
There goes their 50% clearance rate, and Cole presumably is going to get stuck with these, at least for now.
Ziggy goes to White Mike to buy a package. This is the guy, the connect that he says he has, but it's clear Ziggy doesn't even have any money. He wants to be fronted a package, but apparently White Mike has gone through this with Ziggy in the past. White Mike is just some corner guy, and much like we talked about earlier when Herc talked about it, this is what reminded me of that reference of the white guy basically just standing on the corner who has drugs. Because he is just standing on the corner selling drugs, talking about the drugs that he's given Ziggy in the past. And Ziggy has fucked up those packages. White Mike did not retaliate. I guess they have a relationship going back. And White Mike tells Ziggy, just be happy with that and get the fuck out of here. If you have money, I will sell you drugs. But otherwise, I will not give you drugs anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't want to give him any consignment anymore, and it's clear that Ziggy is not trustworthy with that. So,
Stringer goes to visit Avon in the prison yard, which is a super convenient visit.
Yeah, the weird thing to me about this season is that we see Avon in all these scenarios where he's talking openly while under police custody. So he was talking on the phone to Stringer before very openly, against the glass, talking to D'Angelo's mom against the glass very openly, and now we have this situation in the yard where you can just have a conversation. I didn't know that was possible, but hey.
Stringer is literally within the prison yard, just on the outside of the gate. They get the fist bump, and they're just walking the gate almost as if Stringer looks like he's in a position where a prison guard would be patrolling the yard from the outside.
Yeah, very much so. So I've never seen that on TV before. It was interesting, but I guess they're trying to tell us how much pull Avon has.
I assume so, yeah. And this is where Stringer's able to confirm that everything went okay with the connection in Atlanta. And so for now, they're up and going again. And Avon also tells Stringer about this Tillman guy, Weebay CO problem. and just a whole laundry list of things with the crew that needs to be handled. But in addition, like Brianna wanted handled, tells Stringer that he needs to get on Donette to bring that kid down and remind D'Angelo what's going on. And Stringer seemed a little bit concerned for all the weight that D'Angelo's carrying.
Yeah, for sure.
Bunk and Freamon have taken McNulty out to the bar, and it's payback time. McNulty is doing 14 shots, one for each Jane Doe murder that he has stuck the homicide team with. And right now, it's all fun and games because, number one, they're laughing at Jay's reaction. Number two, they're laughing a lot at Rawls' reaction. And again, the only collateral damage in this case for them is poor Cole, but it's almost a little funny at how sad it is that he's not going to be able to probably clear these murders.
Yeah, they're laughing their asses off, having a good old time about this, which is a clear indication that something's going to go wrong. So
yeah, they're too happy.
Now, how do you feel, before we move on, how do you feel about them? I don't know. Like, what's police code here? What's team code here? You got McNulty's no longer the homicide detective, but you guys are like, gleeful about him conspiring against your major and your sergeant. So I don't know. What do you feel?
I think it's the circumstances.
Yeah.
Because, just these circumstances where they know McNulty is good police. It's not like McNulty's a bad cop. He's a good cop. And they know that the bosses are assholes and they understand how the game is played. And they bring this up. This is, they tell Bunk and Freamon specifically tells McNulty, you're never coming back from this.
Yeah, that's true. He does say that. He makes that very clear. So
and McNulty says, what's the worst? What are they going to do now? I'm already on the boat. What could they do?
Yeah.
And really,
you get the line from the beginning of the episode too, which is they could chew you out, but they got to spit you. Wait, you say it right. I'm going to mess it up.
They chew you up, but they got to spit you out.
Yeah.
Frank bails the union guys out for the DUI or gets them out, whatever the deal is there. But this is where he has to basically fess up that this is some sort of a blood feud with a police major. And the guy's telling me, Frank, you got to get that shit right. This is not good. We can't have this going on.
Yeah. So Valchek, at the end of this episode, let's do our little teams and who's winning. Because Valchek in the detail, which we haven't even met yet, I have definitely gotten some victories over Sobotka and his crew.
And I thought it was interesting just with this, and maybe it's just because I already understand the little bit that we've gotten from the first episode with the political structure that was going on. We were talking about, Frank being the treasurer, and then there's the unions, and they all want different things for the union. But Frank is beholden to these guys.
Yeah.
He is not their boss. He is in a voted position.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, he's an elected position. And when they told him, you got to get this shit right, I could feel the pressure that is like, your ass is on the line here. It's not just, hey, my guys are getting locked up. They're not your guys, and you won't have a job. You won't be in power in a certain amount of time if you keep this up where their lives are being inconvenienced. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's a good distinction to make because it's not something that I necessarily registered right away. I definitely saw the concern in Frank's face, like, I got to handle this, but you're right. He has to handle it or he's out. So
Jay pulls Freamon and Bunk in the very next day and tells them he's putting them on the 14 Jane Does. Cole says, I don't want to go at Cole here, but basically that Cole is not up for these murders and he needs his two best men because the clearance rate has to go down. They have to get these murders solved. And so it is on Bunk and it's on Freamon. Ha ha.
Now, do you think Jay was being sincere or was he being disingenuous about them being the best guys and him needing them to clear them? Because I think he was being sincere.
I think he's being sincere. I think Jay knows his men. I think, he knows Cole. And I think Cole probably told him straight up, I can't do it. I think Cole probably told him he can't do it because Cole didn't even want to do it. When you see Cole give him the information as far as like the only thing they knew about, and I think it was just the name of B.D. Russell at this point, he was very smug about it, Cole was. So I think he's happy to be off the case. But I think at the end of the day, Cole and Jay talking about it before Bunk and Freamon walked into the office, both mutually agreed this is the best thing for Cole, the best thing for Jay, the best thing for the police department to get those clearances.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not happy. McNulty went to Rhonda's after the bar, and so we get his wake-up scene. He got there, 2 a.m., and she tells him, it's a little playful at first, and she tells him, you're a child, kind of starts getting on him about his, lack of responsibility, and tells him, you come back here again like this, I'm going to call the cops on you. We've already seen from season 1, he likes to show up in the middle of the night, and she tells him, what am I? I have no official title. I'm not your girlfriend. Who am I to you? And McNulty gives the very lame answer. We're good together, or something like that, right? Which means he's happy having sex with her with no responsibility.
And then, he kind of straight up mentions, he drops a little bomb on her and on me that his wife wants to put stuff back together.
And he's going to go for it. Horrible timing. I mean, he is in her bed and she runs away, and it's just very selfish, very McNulty.
Yeah. But something about McNulty, Rhonda's still attracted to. So, we'll see.
He's clueless though.
Yeah. I don't think he even registered that what he said hurt her feelings, I don't think he registered that at all.
Horseface is walking around the parking lot of the police department. I thought this was a little, casual, but he just what is it called? A Slim Jim or something. And he pops open a surveillance van on the police parking lot, and hotwires the van and just drives it off the lot.
Yeah, man, I had to suspend my belief a little bit for that one. I guess he has the white privilege going for him, but still, you're gonna break into, a surveillance van. The irony of that, I don't know.
On the right in the front, it looked like right outside the front door.
Yeah, there was not much discretion in that robbery.
Freeman and Bunk go to visit Beatty, and this is where we now find out that Beatty and Freeman and Bunk are going to kind of be put together here. Beatty is trying to get the boat that dropped off the can paused or held in Philadelphia, and nobody from the Port Authority is going to be working this case because Rawls pissed everybody off, and so they get no other men. They just get Beatty Russell.
Yeah, so we see more collateral damage of Rawls being an asshole.
And so they decide that they're all gonna go down to Philadelphia together and interrogate this ship. And on the way out, funny little line, Beatty asks Bunk and Freeman, so you must know Jimmy McNulty. And they say, yeah, he's dead to us.
Yeah.
Valchek welcomes in the new detail. Perez is in charge. Polk is back. And it's a bunch of other guys we don't know. I don't feel good about it. But it's in the old digs. I made a joke. I said it kind of feels like Jurassic Park, like when they come back to the island.
I was thinking very similar. But is it the same? I don't know if it's the same building, but it's just as dank and as not professional looking. So
I thought it was, but Valchek right away makes Prez the man. Basically, anything you need
from me. Here.
Yeah, he's a prod. Yeah. Go
look, Prez is great. Don't get me wrong. Prez is great. But Valchek doesn't fucking know that. Right. So, it's just a joke.
And it's very clear. This is just a revenge case for Valchek.
Yeah, for sure.
Horseface Frank and the Union boys are putting this stolen van inside of a can, and they're popping a Union sticker on it and sealing it up and shipping it out.
So... that's interesting. I'm curious what the end game to that is, but I guess I'll wait and see.
Sergey goes to the Port of Philadelphia, which we know is where Bunk and Freeman and Beatty are headed. There's just some shady guy that is there, and there's a car, and Sergey's on foot, and starts off this whole chase off the ship. And Sergey and the other guys, who we know are all with the Greek, they snatch this guy up and put him in the car and drive back off the ship. And this is all before Bunk and Freeman can get there.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is all going down at the same spot. And we never really find out why he started running.
Right. That's the biggest thing we find out when they're interrogating him is they want to know, why did you run? They didn't even know exactly who they were looking for. But apparently this guy knew he was being looked for.
Yeah. So this all stems from those dead girls and getting to the bottom of it. And it's funny because we have law enforcement trying to get to the bottom of it, and also the Greeks trying to get to the bottom of it.
We get to see D'Angelo for the first time in prison.
How did you feel? I mean, go back to the first time you saw the scene ever and tell me how you feel about it.
Sad.
Yeah, really.
Sad. Yeah, sad. Anytime you see a guy in jail so different from the way he was the guy that was saying at that party, yo, what about the rules? And I thought about this again once he's getting high and then he sits down and he puts his headphones on and you just think, what else does this guy have to do? He's got 20 years.
Yeah.
It feels sad that this is where he's at now in life.
And Avon comes in and he's kind of like, yeah, he left that there. He's almost trying to play it off like he's not using.
And it's very quick. Avon says, we're going to have to get together. And D'Angelo's like, all right. And that's it. He walks right back out again.
So where do we think D'Angelo is mentally right now? I mean, obviously he's depressed. Obviously he's, he's not himself. But should Avon and Stringer be concerned, I guess, is the question.
I don't think so. I mean, there's nothing. I don't think there's anything to be worried about.
No, I think. Well,
like I don't see D'Angelo as like just saying I can't do the years. Let me tell you how I lied about everything previously. I just don't.
Very true. I don't see that either. But I do see him having a kind of, I guess, disassociating himself and losing himself in prison. And I think that's what his mom is trying to prevent because, Avon's mess up is what got him there. And he's doing 20 years for the organization. So I think Avon, and it's her son. So she just wants them to make sure they're taking care of him. So I think that's what the fear is more than anything. Not that he'll turn back and snitch on them per se, but that he'll lose himself in prison. And that's not something she wants. So.
Yeah, I mean that is also that's the biggest part of bringing bringing his kid down is the reminder of family and why he's staying silent in the first place. Why he took the years. That family, not only that you have family here that you need to stay loyal to so that they can be supported, but that they are also taking care of your family.
Yeah.
Freeman, Beatty, and Bunk finally get to the boat a little too late. They're talking to some guy. They're trying to get the lay of the land. They're asking if anyone speaks English. The guy says that probably nobody will speak English to these guys, and how expensive it's going to be to keep this boat here overnight or every hour. And they are supposed to be in Jersey, and they're off schedule. And Bunk and Freeman don't give a shit. Beatty's just along for the ride, taking notes. We get to Sergey with the guy. And we get a little bit of detail about this guy. Mainly, they show this tattoo. They go out of the way to show a close-up of a tattoo on his knee. But he doesn't really talk, and he speaks a different language. And this is when Spiros and the old guy walk into the room, and are not – this guy is busted the fuck up, and they do not flinch in any way. And they take over the interrogation. The old guy is smart. He sees the other tattoo on this guy's arm and says that he's Turkish, realizes that he's Turkish, and finally gets the story out of him. And the story is that one of these girls was taken by this guy. The girl fought back. The guy killed her. All the other girls saw, and they freaked out, and the guy closed off the air pipe and killed him.
Yeah. Hey, we get that through interrogation, and then tell me his name again. The old dude.
He doesn't have a name.
No, I'm sorry. The Greek. The Greek guy.
The Greek. We'll call him the Greek.
Okay, so that's just okay. So
all these references when we talked about last episode when Nick said tell the Greek and Frank saying tell the Greek next time there's something, and Ziggy the first time they met when he met Spiros and he said you're the Greek and Spiros said well I'm Greek anyway. That old guy never talked to anybody. He sat at the bar in the diner in that restaurant the entire time, sipping his coffee, never engaging. He is the Greek.
So it's interesting because he starts the interrogation assuring him that he uses very specific language. He says it will end, right? And then once he gets the information he needs, it does end. He kills him. So.
Gruesome. I mean, he slits his throat really slow. Talking about Breaking Bad.
Thank you. You read my mind. I was like, immediately thought of Box Cutter season 4.
Except this looks like he did it with like a pocket knife.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, it wasn't quick. It was
Yeah, Spiros just takes his knife and just digs it into the Turkish guy's throat for a while. And the old guy, I mean, you could tell these guys are not phased. Spiros says a few things like he bleeds like a lamb.
Yeah.
And then in talking about, they brush off the fact that these girls are all dead. And on the way out, the Greek says there'll be other girls. They give one last order to Sergei: no face, no fingerprints.
Presumably, they're gonna beat his face beyond recognition and cut off all the fingerprints.
So I thought at that point is when I went, man, I feel like this movie turned into like The Departed, or just turned into like a mafia movie.
Yeah, it definitely had that vibe with the whole whack him and no fingerprints and
the interrogation and
So let me ask you,
and all the blood. We've seen gun violence.
We've never seen that kind of, and so perfect segue to what I was going to ask you. If we're going to compare, Breaking Bad, season 4, episode 1, Box Cutter, and this scene with the knife to the throat, which do you think was more brutal, just in your personal opinion?
Breaking Bad, because Gus had a relationship with that guy, and so it was completely unexpected, and it was done to intimidate Walt and Jesse, and thus intimidate the viewers. There was no intimidation. I felt like Spiros doing this in front of the Greek was to show how heartless. While they both show how heartless, I don't know that I fear for anyone specifically in The Wire. I don't, in the same way that maybe if the way that Avon and Stringer did what they did to Brandon. And wow, I can only imagine if they get Omar, and they're offering big money for Omar, if they get their hands on him, what they might do. That was a fear that I could have had in season 1. I don't know if I fear anything from the Greeks specifically. Because I don't know anything more about where we're going with it.
That's fair. I agree with you. For different reasons, though. Just the build-up around the Breaking Bad box cutter, right? The whole episode started with Gale opening all of the lab equipment, so they establish it in your head. And then, like you said, they have a relationship with that character who got cut. And then just something about the way they shot it, right? You see the trail of blood go into the, I don't know, it was just very visually terrifying.
It takes so much time for him. We watch him get completely undressed.
Yeah.
Hazmat gear, and then undressed again.
And you don't know what he's doing the first time when he's put on the hazmat gear. Is he about to cook himself? Like, what is he doing? So it's, yeah.
And that's such a height for, you're expecting Walt or Jesse to be killed at that point. It's such a high point for the plot in Breaking Bad. This is a guy, we don't know this guy. At this point, he's the handler that they spoke of. That's really all we know, is that he was in charge of the girls. And that was it.
Oh, so he was the handler they were looking for. That's what we've deducted from this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't put that together. Thank you. All right.
So that was it. Season 2, episode 2. Collateral damage.
Collateral damage. Yeah, it's definitely picking up. I'm definitely locked back in. I'm not attached to the characters yet. Don't get me wrong. And I don't have a favorite this season yet. So I'm gonna stick with Bodhi for now until somebody else pops up. I wish we got some Bodhi this week, but we got a lot of that Barksdale organization, so I'm not mad.
No Bodhi, no Bubs. Still haven't had any Bubs yet this season, right?
Yeah, no Bubs. I forgot about Bubs. I wasn't even thinking about them, but
maybe we don't get any of them.
So now, if we want to start breaking up our factions into who won, I mean, there's definitely Sobotka, right, and his crew.
There's the Union.
Yeah, the Union. We'll call them the Union. Not to be confused with the Big Show and Mankind. But we have them. And then we have Valchek and his detail and the law enforcement, right? That's aside.
Mm-hmm.
do we consider the Greeks their own faction? Maybe not yet. Their interests align with Sobotka's at this point, right?
Yeah. So I would say the Greeks and the Ports.
In the Ports, yeah.
The Greeks and the Sobotkas.
Yeah.
I don't really know what is at stake for the unions as far as the plot of the show at this point, in competition with everyone else. I don't expect, but the Sobotkas at least have something going on with the Greeks, and that is criminality that we know at least that Stan Valchek is investigating. So let's go with Valchek and the cops.
Yep.
Well, do we separate Valchek
from McNulty and those guys?
Well, and Bunk and Freamon, who are actually investigating these girls?
I think so, because their goals aren't aligned, right? So it's confusing, and I'm sure things will converge. But right now, McNulty and those guys have their own mission. It doesn't really support what Valchek's trying to do, but it can.
But also, Valchek doesn't even have anything going on just yet. So let's wait. Let's wait for them. Let's say we've got the girls, the case with the girls with Bunk Freamon and Beatty, and we can say McNulty.
Okay.
We've got Avon and Stringer, who are trying to rebuild and hoping to stay out of the radar from the blowback from season 1.
Yep.
And we've got the Greeks and the Sobotkas.
Yeah, the only reason I wanted to kind of give Valchek and his detail a win this week is because of the arrests and the tickets, because that was a small victory for them. But you're right, they don't have anything hard on these guys yet. So,
and I would say the way that Frank laid out Valchek in the Union Hall and the fact that he's not going to get the window.
Yeah, true.
And they got the van, and they took the van.
Oh, and they got the van. I forgot about the van. Yeah, you're right.
And if we want to go back and learn our lessons from season 1, remember when the car got burned up? What was it that Daniels was super mad about?
The property, the
equipment. Yes, everything that was inside of it. So this is a surveillance van.
Yeah, so maybe Sobotka and the Greeks got a W this week then, or despite all the minor things they got tickets for and arrested for, right?
We know they don't care about the girls. We know that right now McNulty or Bunk and Freamon are dead-ended because nobody speaks English on that boat, and they don't think anyone's going to talk to them. So they're really those 14 girls. That murder case is completely cold.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point, Sobotkas and the Greeks have covered up their tracks, and they're going to keep on moving, and the Greeks don't even care about the girls.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment of where we are from episode 2.
So that'll take us to season 2, episode 3, Hot Shots.
Hot Shots. Can't wait.
All right. So that'll be on the next episode.
All right. This has been my first watch.
My rewatch, The Wire.
All right. See you next week.
Later.